Director of Advance at UNM. We're expecting another couple of people to join us, and Sandy will let them in, but we're really pleased you're here and are looking forward to talking with you about mentoring and developing your own map of mentors. And I'm delighted to have Kristina Jacobsen with me here to talk about this process. I'm going to do a brief introduction with a few sort of general thoughts about mentoring, and then Kristina is going to take over and talk to you about developing your own mentoring map. When she's doing that, we'll be using the PDF that Sandy sent to you earlier today and that Kristina has put in the chat. And before we do that, since we've got a nice small group, we're going to go around and ask everyone to introduce themselves. And if there's anything you'd particularly like us to address, feel free to go ahead and mention it. And I will start by asking with Kristina to introduce herself.
All right. Hi, everyone. It's nice to see you all. I'm Kristina Jacobsen, and I'm an associate professor in the music and anthropology departments at UNM. I am the co-founder and facilitator of the UNM Honky Tonk Ensemble, and I also facilitate the songwriting major within the interdisciplinary arts degree at UNM. It's nice to meet everyone.
Dina.
Hello, I'm Dina Gould. I am an assistant professor in the College of Education and Human Sciences. Specifically, I am involved in teacher education and science education.
Thank you. Adrian.
Hi, everybody. I'm Adrienne Warner. I am an assistant professor in the College of University Libraries and Learning Sciences. I'm a librarian, but I also teach classes.
Terrific. Laura. Laura, are you there? Yes. Hi, Laura, can you introduce yourself to the group? Can you hear us?
Oh, no, sorry.
Oh, okay, that's okay.
I was problem with my, okay, so I'm Laura De Lorenzo. I'm lecturer 3 at the Department of Biochemistry and Molecular Biology in the School of Medicine. I will be very interested in this program because, so I think it's really great to know how to find a mentor or several mentors to help you in your career.
Terrific.
Thank you.
Elizabeth.
Hi, everyone. I'm Elizabeth Gonzalez Cardenas. I'm an assistant professor in Chicano Studies and looking forward to today. And thank you for sending the PDF too. I'm excited to work on that.
Victoria.
I'm Victoria Babicheva. I work in the Department of Electrical and Computer Engineering. I'm assistant professor at my end of my 3rd year. Thank you.
Mi-kyung.
Hi, my name is Min-kyung Koo. I go by Min, and I'm an assistant professor of marketing at the Anderson School of Management. Nice to meet you.
Hey, it's nice to meet you all, and we're glad you're here. I am going to now share my screen and offer a few thoughts on mentoring, and then Kristina will talk you through the mentoring map. Please, at any time, if you've got a question or a comment, put it in chat, raise your hand. You know, let's have this be as interactive as you would like it to be. So first of all, know that you absolutely all belong here. I love this cartoon. I feel this cartoon. If you struggle with imposter syndrome, first of all, we've got a really terrific workshop next week with a leadership consultant. And secondly, the rest of us are right here with you worrying, okay, everyone should be at this convention but me. You do belong here at UNM, and we really want to do everything we can to help you be successful as you define success. And part of thinking about mentoring is thinking about what you're trying to do. And we always encourage you to commit time to things you care about. And if you decide you want these slides, I'm happy to have Sandy will send them out to you afterwards. You need to allow yourself to be imperfect. There is a great deal of trying and failing, or trying and only sort of succeeding with being a faculty member. And so allowing yourself to take some risks, knowing that things might not work out perfectly, is really actually important to being successful. And another reason why you need a broad range of mentors, because you need some people who can be cheerleaders and remind you that that's okay. So the big message is you need multiple mentors. You need to be talking with colleagues, taking advantage of resources like this opportunity, and you need to be doing enough different things that you're comfortable ignoring some of the advice you're going to get, because not everyone's going to give you good advice. And you need to know that you've got enough people you're talking with that, when things don't feel right, you're either comfortable ignoring it, or you can go talk to someone else who can go, no, you're right, that doesn't make sense for you in this situation. Or, yeah, actually, I can see why that's making you uncomfortable, but you should think about it. So this cartoon, yes, the mentoring session went very well. I think even my mentee learned something. The really good mentors are going to be people who look forward to helping you and working with you because they also learn things from you. And that may not be things you were trying to teach them. It could be, I enjoy, for example, talking with a range of faculty because I like knowing how people are thinking about things and how things are going. And the more faculty I talk to, the better job I can do figuring out broadly what advance needs to be doing, or what policies need to be changed, or what processes need to be clarified. We all need mentors. Doesn't matter what our career stage is, we all need mentors. Whether you're an assistant professor, an associate professor, a department chair, a dean, a provost, everyone needs advice. And we all need a range of mentors. You should have some formal mentors that you have been assigned, but you need mentors outside of your department or program. And they could be formal mentors in the sense of people that you say, hey, will you be my mentor? They could be informal mentors, and that is people maybe you get together with for coffee or a glass of wine or lunch or something occasionally, or you keep informed about how you're doing, where maybe you've never asked them to be a mentor. And you need peers that you're checking in with that, or can kind of be a different sort of support and advice than people who are senior to you in career. So ideally, as Kristina is going to talk to you about, you want mentors in your department, outside your department, but still at UNM, and outside of UNM. And they could be people in the community who have experience and wisdom that you respect. It could be people through your professional organizations, but you want a range. In particular, you need what we're going to call safe people. These are people not directly involved in your department or program, not involved in evaluating you or voting on your progress, that you can talk with. It could be that you need, you could use these safe people to talk to about how do university processes really work, or if you need help, or if you think you're struggling and you want some confidential help and you don't want it to get out to your department necessarily. So safe can mean a lot of things here, but you really want to make sure you've got some people like that. And like I said before, you need to be able to get enough information that you can ignore some of the advice, because you're going to get contradictory advice, particularly in terms of things like what you need to do for tenure or for annual evaluations, or to be a good, be in good standing in your department. Everyone's going to have a different opinion. And so you need to be able to sort of navigate that. And really important, people can be your mentors without knowing they are a mentor. You can have a bunch of people on your mentoring map who do not know they are your mentors, but they are people you come in contact with, people who you meet with occasionally or even regularly, who can give you good advice, or people who can be resources for you, but who you've never said, hey, will you be a mentor? Because sometimes that's intimidating, and sometimes you can get what you need out of the relationship without formalizing it in that way. In addition to having mentors, you need a committee of no. And this can be a very small committee. It can just be 1 or 2 or 3 other trusted colleagues. And this can be an area where you really want to engage your peers, because you're going to get asked to do all kinds of things, particularly in terms of different types of service. And you want to have a couple of colleagues you can talk to before you accept any new big time commitments. I mean, there's obviously some sorts of things you have to say yes to because they're expected or they're simple, but any new big time commitments, committees, service type of things, you want to be able to think about it, and you want some people you can talk to, because sometimes yes is the right answer, but sometimes it's no. And you need some colleagues who can say, oh, you really got to do this, or have you looked at your schedule? Are you crazy? And who then you can have the conversation with. And it's a piece of mentoring that not everyone thinks about. And this is an area where sometimes your peers can be really helpful because they're struggling with the same issues. Could be peers from a different department, but people who are dealing with the same sort of time issues you are. There's other resources. I could use a mentor, but what I really need is a nap. Given the level of my allergies, this is where I am right now. Kristina's going to show you and talk through the mentoring map that is from the National Center for Faculty Development and Diversity. UNM has an institutional membership to NCFDD. And so you can join through our institutional membership, and there are a lot of free resources available. They also have a faculty success program that is a virtual 12-week program that puts faculty in small groups with a couple of other faculty from other institutions and a coach to meet weekly and go through professional development and develop a writing habit and things like that. It's a fairly expensive program, and the main campus DEI office has a scholarship program that funds 50% of it, and then you can try and see if your college or school or department can fund some of the rest of that. And so there's a link to the applications, or you can find it on the DEI homepage. One way to find people that can be formal or informal mentors is to get involved in some informal, initially anyway, interdisciplinary work and discussions. There's a lot more of that going on now than there used to be. And the Research Grand Challenges director, Anita Grierson, is in charge of those. And she's pretty much open to facilitating faculty having any sort of level of interdisciplinary discussions right now. There's a huge range that includes some of the new strategic areas the VPR is trying to develop, like arid climates or quantum information, but also human rights needs in terms of student needs in higher ed in terms of things like food security and housing security, STEM education. There's a big range right now. And if you're interested in seeing what sort of interdisciplinary discussions are going on, you can email Anita. If you need resources that can be confidential on different aspects of how the university works, I can help. Other members of the advanced team can help. The Center for Teaching and Learning can have confidential meetings on teaching. Anything related to research, if you don't know where to start, email the Faculty Research Development Office. There's ways to get plugged in and start to meet other people that may then have a role in your mentoring map. And the other thing to always have in mind, if you need it, is there are neutral spaces on campus for meetings. If you have a meeting that you really, really need to have be confidential, the advanced conference room can be available. There's a lot of outside space, on this campus, some of which is in little private nooks that most people don't come across. And remember, there's a lot of meeting space in the sub, particularly the basement and the second floor. I mean, sometimes, dare I say it, there are students studying there. But those can also be places you can meet people if you need somewhere that's relatively private, but don't have, don't want it to be in your office or a conference room. So this is a range of sort of high-level things to discuss. The important thing is you need multiple mentors. They will all have different roles and different levels of types of relationships with you. And with that, I am going to turn this over to Kristina, who's going to talk you through this map.
Hey everyone, it's really nice to be with you all this afternoon. And a couple things I wanted to say, just to jump on something Julia just shared. This idea of the no committee is a really powerful thing. I formed a no committee about a year ago, and I'm happy to talk more about that. But forming a group of folks that will sort of help you to discern the yeses and the nos, I found so helpful. So I'm going to talk a little bit about this mentor map. And just to say up front, this is not a map that I have created or invented. This is from the NCFDD program, and specifically it's something they use in the faculty success program that Julia mentioned earlier. It's something that of the different exercises that we were given over the course of 12 weeks, I found really helpful. I still find it helpful. It's a work in progress in a lot of ways. And so I wanted to highlight a couple of the different categories, and then my plan for us this afternoon in our brief time together is to talk for about 15 minutes, and then I actually want us to start doing these maps together. And then we'll open it up to broader conversation and discussion with both Julia and myself. So a couple things just to say, this is one model. And the map is sort of a guideline, and it's not fixed in stone in any ways. Again, mentoring, we're sort of conceptualizing of mentoring in this context is pretty broadly defined. And the basic idea behind this map here is the concept of becoming the center of our own mentorship models or concepts, rather than looking to others to sort of be our primary mentors. So that's one of the sort of reason that it's inverted in the model that you see, right? That we're sort of utilizing different resources and mentors, but in a slightly different way. And one of the other things is it can be really nerve-wracking to ask someone, as Julia said, sort of to formally become your mentor, right? That can feel like a very intense ask. And so what can be feel a little bit more manageable in my experience is to identify a very specific need and then ask someone for a very small specific thing, right? And then larger relationships potentially can result from those, but it can feel a lot more manageable on both sides, I think, both on the ask side and on the offering side. The final thing that I want to say here is that as we dive into doing these maps together, and as you see this list on the screen with all these blank spaces, this is not an excuse to beat ourselves up. Or to sort of be like, God, this is just like one other thing I haven't done, right? Among our very, very long list in the middle of a Wednesday afternoon. This is more to sort of catalyze our thinking about what it means to be mentored and what sorts of resources and support networks and systems, both within our university setting and also beyond that, can make us feel more supported in a more holistic and broad sense. At least that is my interpretation and my understanding of the work that we'll be doing. So one of the basic gists here is that we don't want to give any one person too much power, right? So this is sort of a diversifying of that. And one of the things I found, I've been doing this mentor map for about 3 years now. And the first time I filled it out and also continuing, but especially in the beginning, I really had one person that was sort of occupying so many of these different roles, right? I was sort of plugging the same person in all these different categories. And so one of the things for me in sort of diversifying my mentor map was thinking through, oh, okay, like what are these other needs and like who else might fill those in different ways, and also in that way offer a broader diversity of opinions. So I'm going to highlight a couple of these, and I know that we all see the screen together. And then we'll pause to do this on our own. So the first one I'm going to talk about that I found really helpful is the one in the bottom right-hand corner of intellectual community. And the basic idea here is to sort of think about the different communities that we either have or could have access to that read our work if publishing and writing is an active part of our research. Folks that read our work at different stages in our work. So for example, the 0 to 25% might be folks that are sort of, I think of them as the folks when our ideas or our concepts are still in the birth canal, so to speak. In other words, they're still at the conceptual stage, right? Maybe we haven't even written anything, but we want to brainstorm with someone. And so these tend to be the people that are sort of the ones that we trust the most and that will sort of hold our concepts or our ideas dear, and keep them in confidence. And then if you move to the category of the 25 to 50%, those folks, this could be folks that are perhaps reading an early rough draft or giving you feedback on that. And again, that feel comfortable and safe in that particular context. And then as you sort of move up the food chain, as it were, or get into the higher percentages, the idea is that our work is becoming a little bit more polished as we move through those. And so in the 50 to 75% range, that might be folks like editors, journals, who else? Writing groups for sure, depending on the stage that the group has chosen to share things with. And then the 75 to 100% would be probably things like getting final feedback for presentations at conferences, finalizing things, also perhaps developmental editors or folks that we're working with to kind of get our work literally out the door so that we can then submit it. So something I found helpful about this when I was first thinking it through is just dividing it up and striating it a little bit, right? So it was like, oh yeah, like the assessment that I needed to make in my own work, like what stage is this actually at? And what kind of specific feedback at this stage would I benefit from, knowing that, I'll get feedback at this stage, but then ideally I'll also get it at these other stages, right? So it's sort of broadening it and giving feedback as it goes. So a couple other categories I'll talk about. One is the sponsorship category. I found this really helpful, and I'm going to make a little sort of mental edit on this. You'll see by sponsorship, it says senior faculty in your department. And that is not my experience of the way sponsorship works, but also I think in my personal opinion is that is too narrow. Sponsorship, in the way that I understand it, is people that talk about you and forward your agenda, research, teaching, whatever it is that you hold dear when you're not in the room. And those folks are so powerful, right? Because we have no control over it, but what we do have control over is providing regular lines of communication to folks saying, hey, I just won this amazing award. I'm up to this amazing project. Let me tell you about it. Getting folks excited, but also sort of doing the hopefully fairly regular work of just sending very, very small updates so that when those moments arise, that someone can say, oh yeah, I know what they're up to, right? And here's what their latest project is, and it's amazing, and you should meet them. So I found this idea really, really helpful. I think in my mind, I had thought about mentors as sort of a face-to-face phenomenon, right? And so the fact that there are folks sort of working behind the scenes, as we know there are, right? Like we experience this in our everyday lives, but to think of that as a different form of mentor, I found helpful. In my experience, that is not limited at all to senior faculty in our specific departments. And I think, that's folks beyond the university, it's folks beyond our department. It could be folks that aren't necessarily formally affiliated with academia, right? It can be, I think, a much, much broader range. So my encouragement is for us to think about sponsorship in a broader way there than NCFDD does in this particular case. And then I'll talk briefly about the accountability category, which I also found really helpful. So here it says, accountability for what really matters. And so I'll give you a couple examples of, for me, what this means and what this has looked like. So I am a touring singer-songwriter and an ethnographer and a researcher, and am very identified with pedagogy and with teaching and with my own teaching. And I have found that I need support and mentorship and accountability for those different categories, because otherwise when things get really, really busy or I get really stressed, those can sort of fall off, right? And in particular for me as an artist and as a researcher, the art part is really easy to sort of let that slough. And so one of the things, so I guess that the categories I would put forth for me in terms of the what really matters, what makes me feel fully seen, but also what makes me feel fully human, would be, songwriting, research, my community-based work. But then I think I would also say like a sense of integrity and my sense of self, right? And so for me, this category of accountability is, it's helpful to ask ourselves, who are the people in our lives that reflect our best selves back to us, right? That really see us and sort of know what we are fully capable of. And so one of the things that I've done in this category that's been very powerful, and this has been probably in the last year or so that I've done this, is I've set up a series of monthly meetings with different folks who I feel very connected to, or I feel really see me in these different areas that I hold dear and that make me feel and continue to feel like I am me, and however that is defined. And so I do monthly accountability check-ins. I keep them very short because everyone is busy and I am as well. So I do 30-minute meetings, like, okay, once a month. And basically it's not really so much a chat. It's like how are you doing on this thing that you said you wanted to do last month, and how's it feeling? And what do you need to do next to move it forward? Awesome. And so it sort of allows us to drop some of the stories and just kind of dig right into the meat of the thing that we told someone that we really wanted to do. And then they drop right into it. So I found that very, very powerful, and not too time consuming, which I also love. So, I'll be walking my dog on the acequia and I'll do my check-ins with folks, for example. So I think, let's see if there are any other specific ones that I wanted. Yeah, I'll go over one more really briefly. So you'll see there's this category of emotional support, and then there's this category of safe space. And so I'll just talk about both of those really briefly. Some of them I think are a little more explanatory, self-explanatory, like role models, for example. So emotional support I see as the folks, friends, family, partners, that can provide support for us and that are ideally outside of our workspace and sort of outside of our direct work world. People that can listen to us vent, people that can hold that space, people that can see us as bigger than we are in that particular moment, and that can provide that. And so that in some ways I see and understand as being different than the safe space concept. And the safe space is more, I would say this can be folks within our workplace or outside of our workplace. But the basic idea is these are, for example, colleagues on campus who really get us or get you, right? That understand your positionalities and the various ways that those might be defined, and understand where you are coming from and can offer you advice and support from that particular place, right? They see you, they get you in a very specific kind of way. So, for me, in my particular case, this tends to be, again, folks probably outside of my direct department, but colleagues across campus in a variety of other different kinds of ways. So all that to say, it might look really, really different depending on how you're positioned in your department and what stage you're at and all of those other things. So I think that has a fair amount of flexibility. But a safe space basically is folks within your work ambit, broadly speaking, that can A, hold your confidence, right? Which I think is a really, really important thing to sort of know and assess. And B, that see you in a way that you feel like you're fully seen by them in terms of your contributions professionally as a teacher, et cetera, et cetera. So I think with that, I think I'd like to go ahead and stop. And what we're going to do is I'm going to set a timer, and we're going to take 5 minutes and just fill out this map. And then we'll come back, and the encouragement would be that if there are reflections on, what filling out the map, the very early stages would be. Feel free to reflect on that, and then we'll also open it up for general discussion and broader questions. Again, I just want to give one little caveat for this, which is that the way it was explained to me, this map in its ideal form, it's sort of made for each of our different phases in terms of our careers. So let's say being an assistant professor, an associate professor, getting advanced to full. So like 5 to 6 year increments. So in an ideal world, this map is completed within 5 or 6 years, not today and not even in the next year, right? So think of it in like the much, and I would say more use it as like a way to sort of bring awareness and ask questions like, that's an interesting trend, right? Rather than, this is what I tell my songwriting students. I'm like, tell the critic to go sit in the corner and just, hang out and then just do your thing. So I'll set the timer and then we'll come back at 2:10. So in 5 minutes. Okay, happy mapping. Alrighty. So welcome back, everyone. I hope that wasn't too painful. And I think we'll open it up now for any reflections that you might have on that you care to share, or general questions about this whole idea of mentoring and what it means to be mentored by others. I think it's an important thing to think about. I'll also share, I think I might have mentioned this earlier, but the first couple of times I've done this, I literally had like the same person plugged in so many different places. So I think that's very, very normal for us to start in that place.
I think I might just throw out there that just even, I think you just said this, Kristina, but it really rang true during this activity. Just like who I talk to routinely and considering them a mentor, like just that process of even interrogating that, like makes me think of that relationship differently and makes me be a little bit more intentional about, okay, so if they are an informal mentor, then what am I asking them to do? Whether just, not necessarily asking overtly to them out loud or something, but like when I approach them, what am I asking or what am I needing from them? So it's just a really interesting reflective activity.
Yeah. Thank you so much for sharing that. I do think, the identifying like the specific need. Another way that I found helpful to frame that is like, who is doing something that I would love to be doing 5 years from now, right? And would they be willing to talk with me for 15 minutes? I found 15-minute conversations so powerful. It sounds like no time, but if it's focused and the need is identified, a huge amount can get accomplished, right? So whereas in the middle of my work week, I'm probably not going to do an hour-long conversation. I might be able to do 15 minutes when I'm walking my dog, right? Or whatever it is. Yeah. Thank you for sharing that, Adrian. Yeah. Other thoughts and reflections on beginning to sort of chip away at this map, or what that felt like for folks.
Maybe another way to think about this is, what gaps are you finding that you were going to be concentrating on first?
Mm-hmm.
Feel free to put things in chat if you don't want to speak up.
I guess I also just had a clarifying question first, so I make sure I understand like the different areas. On the substantive feedback part in the upper left, is that like your no committee? Is that how you interpret that, or how do you think about that?
I interpret that more as folks in your department, for example, that can sort of give you the institutional knowledge of that department. So, what are the specific do's and don'ts, or the specific, politics within a specific department that may not be written anywhere or may not be stated explicitly, but that you would want to know to navigate with skill in that particular space at the level, I would say, of research and service and teaching. So sort of the unspoken things, and who might be able to give you windows into those parts of your specific unit, your specific department.
Thanks, that really makes sense.
Yeah, absolutely.
I think you can also, and Kristina was talking about this, think through these and develop definitions that work for you.
Mm-hmm.
It's not a, you will not, there is no vocabulary test. And as long as it is encouraging you to think about different ways you need support, that's the important thing. And you may decide some of the categories don't work for you, or that you see in the way you think about your roles, some of them overlap and you just think about one, and that's fine. If people are concerned about speaking up because we're recording this, we can stop recording it. Why don't we do that, Sandy?